Field Study 1, Episode 9, Preparing for Teaching and Learning. Spark your interest. This episode gives emphasis on the principles of learning which must be applied to ensure quality instruction. It focuses on the intended learning outcomes, which is SMART. It determines the teaching method used by the resource teacher, inductive or deductive. This episode coheres with the course on facilitating learner-centered teaching. Activity 9.1 Demonstrating an understanding of research-based knowledge, principles of teaching and learning. Analyze. What principles of learning were most applied and least applied? The most applied principle of learning is learning is an active process. There is more for the students to learn if they participate in the learning process. The least applied principle is learning is the discovery of personal meaning and relevance of ideas. Since the time is limited, the teacher gives more time explaining the topic and asks students about their ideas if there is plenty of time left. Give instances where these principles could have been applied. Number 1. Before the discussion. The teacher presents their intended learning outcome regarding their topic in order for students to have the idea of what they're going to learn. Number 2. The teacher asks students to participate by giving questions where students can interact and also ask questions to further understand the lesson. Number 3. The teacher asks students to share their thoughts about the subject matter and allows them to discuss and present it in front of the class. Number 4. Students discuss about their group activity where they collaborate and cooperate in order to have a good output. Reflect. From among the principles of learning, which one do you think is the most important? The most important principle of learning is an active process because it encourages students to actively participate in the process of learning using the student-centered approach. Teacher gives more time for students to collaborate and explore in a more student-centered way. The students have more time to participate in the creation of knowledge, and the role of the teacher is just to facilitate them. With this, it can be a deeper understanding, develop critical thinking, and problem-solving skills. Activity 9.2 Identifying learning outcomes that are aligned with learning competencies. Cite pieces of evidence that these learning outcomes were achieved. Number 1. The students did the activity on Newton's first law of motion correctly. Number 2. After the activity, the students can state the Newton's first law of motion. Number 3. The students can cite other scenarios involving the Newton's first law of motion. Analyze. Do SMART objectives make the lesson more focused? In my opinion, SMART objectives help the lesson become more focused because the goals will set you up for success by making goals specific, measurable, attainable, result-oriented, and time-bound. With this, teachers are guided to achieve their desired intended learning outcomes. The SMART method helps teachers to push further, gives them sense of direction, and helps them organize and reach their goals to achieve what they are expecting from the students. Reflect on the lessons learned in determining SMART learning outcomes. I have learned from the lesson that in determining SMART learning outcomes, in your lesson objectives or intended learning outcomes that it should be SMART, specific, measurable, attainable, result-oriented, and time-bound. Because this will really help the teacher as well as will guide the teacher in learning process and to the development of the students. As what I have said, SMART objectives will also help teachers to direct the flow of the lesson and help the teacher to achieve the desired goals on a specific topic as well as it helps to make the discussion clean and organized. Activity 9.3 Distinguishing between inductive and deductive method of teaching. analyze what are possible consequences of teaching purely subject matter for my study and for the test. The consequences of teaching purely subject matter for mastery and hardest is that the teacher will not extend the knowledge because the teacher limits the learning or in the concept and with no application. This may also result to students studying just for the sake of examination and the lesson taught would be easily forgotten. If you were to reteach the classes you observe, would you be the teacher-centered or student-centered? Why? If I were to reteach the class, I would still use the student-centered approach where I will encourage students to actively participate, but they were the one who will facilitate. What I will do is to guide them and correct them if they make mistakes. Reflect on principles of teaching worth applying. As a future educator, the principles of teaching are very important for us to improve ourselves and the process of learning of our students. This promotes excellence in learning and teaching practices expressed in different institutions that are committed to learning. If all of these principles tackled, it enhances students to engage and learn through effective teaching.